Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Water Running Podcast. I'm your host, Maren, and this is a podcast where we feature and celebrate the amazing high school and collegiate cross-country and track and field athletes and their accomplishments from the Blue Water area of Michigan. August 19th kicks off the official MHSAA competition date for high school cross-country, and it's time for the Blue Water Running cross-country season preview. This preview is based on last season's performance statistics, a survey sent to all the area coaches, and provides a brief overview of the local teams and highlights some key athletes to watch. Whoever responds has their quotes and info added into the preview, which is why some teams' write-ups are significantly longer than others. So athletes and coaches, if you want me to say more about you, respond with some info. Unless a coach specifically mentions an incoming freshman or they're relevant to the team due to the numbers of their roster, they're not usually included in the preview since they haven't run cross country at the high school level yet. Blue Water Running covers Algonac, Almont, Anchor Bay, Armada, Austin Catholic, Capac, Cros-Lex, Dryden, Imlay City, Kimball New Life Christian, Kimball Landmark Academy, Macomb Lutheran North, Marine City Cardinal Mooney Catholic, Marysville, Memphis, the Michigan Athletic Club for Homeschoolers called MAC, New Haven, Port Huron High, Port Huron Northern, North Branch, Richmond, St. Clair, Yale, and our local area community colleges, which include SC4 and Macomb Community College. All right, we're going to dive right into it here, but I have a little disclaimer that I want to give before we get started on team and individual previews. Something that is interesting to note about this year's season is that Algonac is leaving the BWAC for the MAC Blue, and Macomb Lutheran North is entering the BWAC and beginning competition in that league. A couple other things that are significant to note about our regional. The majority of Blue Water teams race in the D2 Region 17 at Columbus Park, and that has been mixed up quite a bit this year. We have quite a few new teams coming in that we haven't raced before. So it's not hard to imagine that regional race times will need to be much faster this year in order to earn a state qualification. And here's why. One example, Holly High School, they were added to the D2 17 region, and they were in a much tougher team regional last year. So here's a comparison. In their previous regional, the top three girls ran sub 18 minutes, and in 1858 was 15th place, the last qualifying place. Holly's girls went second or two, 1739, 8th, 1838, and then in comparison, a 1940 won our regional, and 15th place was 2104. So our winner would not have even qualified in 15th place in that region with that time. Holly's top three boys ran 1601, and that was 14th. 1617, that was 22nd. 1618, that was 23rd. While our boys' regional winner ran a 1618. 15th place was a 1727 in Holly's previous regional. So you can see that the times are, much different. Now, you can argue that a course's difficulty and its technicality, hills, terrain, and so on affect times across various regionals around the state, which is why times are not as consistent as on a track, to say. But the Columbus course has already been notoriously fast. 60% of both the boys and girls fields last year in the fall set personal best in their regional race. And then the year before that, 75%. So I don't think we can just say, well, Columbus is a harder course when people are setting their PRs there. Here's another example. Marion, that's an all-girls school from Bloomfield Hills. They're joining our region as well, and they have a pack of three girls that run 2024, 2028, 2105, four girls, and 2109, and that's very comparable to the girls teams that are already in our area if you look at their times across the board in their pack running. So Pontiac Notre Dame Prep joins as well. They have three runners at 2058, 2102, 2131. So I think it's fair to say that if you want to make it to the state meet, it's going to be a little tougher this year, judging on last year's times from teams joining our region, and it's going to pull everybody to a faster regional. Now, remember, this preview is just a perspective of potential outcomes for the season. Obviously, I can't predict the future. If I could, I'd be making a lot more money. And that's not an expectation to place on anybody and make them feel stressed or worried. It's just a summary of looking at, what the statistics tell us and what the season might look like. And it's just kind of fun to look at, how coaches and teams and athletes are preparing and fans of the sport are keeping track of what's going on. So, last disclaimer, after days, weeks, possibly months of studying stats, names, and numbers on athletic.net, I will inevitably make a mistake. I will spell it wrong. I will get a time wrong. I'll forget somebody that should be mentioned. It is not intentional. It is not, to slight anyone on purpose. And so I do apologize in advance for any errors I make. And then if you want to let me know, I can correct it in the article when I publish it. But once the podcast is live, well, it lives forever. So letting you know now, I'm sorry if I did it wrong. All right, let's start with Algonac. So kind of a sad goodbye to the Muskrats. After 23 years in the BWAC, they are moving out to the MAC Blue, the Macomb Athletic Conference Blue Division, and they'll be competing with teams that are perhaps a little unfamiliar to them. They also lost 8 senior boys to graduation last year, and then 2 other runners moved. So according to their coach, Dan Schaefer, they're kind of in rebuilding mode. They do have a group of freshmen that look promising to go with some of their returning top 7. And then same for the girls. They return most of their runners, but they lost a senior. So if they stay healthy, hopefully they can compete in that MAC Blue. Coach Schaefer says that he's looking at seniors Chase McCarthy and junior Clint Malcolm, who are going to lead the boys team, although Clint is coming off an injury. And then sophomore Cadence Ager and junior Jenna Dobbs should lead the girls. Both of them did make it to the state finals. Ager in cross country and Dobbs in track. And then they've had some time at camp building up their base mileage and getting to know each other and having some fun, canoeing, running, horseback riding, some team bonding. And as always, Algonac will be hosting their infamous Muskrat Classic Run for the 39th year on September 12th. 70 teams from 36 different schools will be competing. And then they will also be hosting our 3 regionals at Columbus County Park over the span of 2 days. D1 will run on October 30th. That should be a great showdown between Rochester Adams, L. McMahon, and Romeo's Annie Habrowski. And then the next day on Halloween will be the D2 and D3 races. So looking at Almont, Taylor Stanzik had a fantastic postseason performance last fall. She ran 2025, which was a huge PR for her at regionals. She got 12th. And then she went to the state finals, and then she did it again. We know that the MIS course is legit. She dropped time again. She ran 2011, placing 60th there. And on the boys' side, Colton Gribbs and Andrew St. Andre are the top returning runners for the Raiders. Both of them ran sub 18 minutes last season and hopefully can get that state meet qualification this year at regionals. Anchor Bay had a fun camp experience. They went up to Lost Valley Camp, which is in Gaylord, and they got to run with other teams from other schools, Bay City Western, Midland, and then Mount Pleasant. And their head coach, Eddie Comp, said they played volleyball. They had a bunch of fun. But cross-country kids aren't necessarily known for their volleyball skills. So that was a really good way to teach them camaraderie and communication with their teammates. And of course, ice cream was involved. When asked about their primary goals for the season, obviously they want to get some team qualifications if possible, or individuals to the state meet. That is no easy task when you are in a D1 powerhouse with Romeo in your regional. But on the boys' side, he's looking at Sebastian Azar and Brandon Zemer to be his top guys. He said they worked really hard this season, and 4 freshmen have joined. And Brendan King and Justin Howes will learn very quickly what cross-country is all about and start to gain some experience there. For the girls, it looks like it's Maddie Leslie at the front, but 3 others are pretty close, and they're ready to make that next step. So Audra Kraus, Nicole Lucca, and Mary Wright look to be the names that are ready to take that next step. Quick note about Zemer. He earned a trip to the state meet last year, finishing 18th in 1640. And then Azar was just a few places out. He took 26th in 1656. And Audra Kraus was the top finisher for Anchor Bay at the girls' regional last year. She took 24th, and then Mary Wright was 34th. So this coach has some great advice for you high school runners. Sometimes no plan is the best plan, because if you learn how to fail and make precious core memories and get things out of that you didn't know before, that's something you can take with you to the next, and then have one voice telling you what to do and believe in you. All right. Armada runners also headed to camp. They went to Interlochen State Park and then visited Traverse City, Glen Arbor, and some other areas around that part of Michigan. And their focus was getting their legs ready for miles for some of those who may not be up in their mileage yet, or they're transitioning from, an aerobic base to getting ready to race. And then also, as the goal of camp usually is, to have fun and enjoy some activities that build camaraderie with your team. So Coach Rob Bloom has some predictions for which Tigers to keep an eye on this season. Obviously, we have returning BWAC champ Clair Albrecht, who won all 3 jamborees as a freshman. We have Lainey Reef coming to camp, ready to go. Allison Mansfield was a state qualifier in track, who kind of was a game changer in the BWAC meet in the past. Addison Noteboom, she's a senior. She loves cross country. She's made a lot of improvements over the last few years. Mackenzie Marshall, Camille Fitzpatrick was a state meet qualifier. And then a freshman to watch is Layla Tedder, who has never raced, but has been right in with the lead kids all summer. And Coach Bloom predicts that if they have successful team outcomes, she's going to be a big part of that. For the boys, Edward Marshall, looking at realizing his potential. He's been training smart. Will Arnold, working consistently. Henry Whitgen, studying the sport, trying to do his best. He will, keep changing up his strategy and looking at things that he can do to get better. And then 2 freshmen, Nick Noteboom and Eric Foster, have both been, learning and growing in the sport and building up their miles. And then I wanted to read a quote that Coach Bloom submitted that I think is something that all of us should think about when finished with a meet. And that is, be an awesome teammate. Find some way to convey to your teammates that they matter. And I don't know how many people notice this about the great Morgan Beadlescombe, who is an Algonac alum, state champ, went on to run for MSU, is now a professional runner. But I watched him at many races his senior year, go through the chute and right back out to some of the loneliest places on the course to cheer on his teammates, no matter how far behind they were. So I have to imagine that it would be any coach's favorite season to regularly hear from their athletes, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I love you, and I'm very happy you're here to watch me, but I've got a teammate out there who may not finish for another 15 minutes, who has no one around, but probably would like someone, so I'm going to go be that person. I'll see you after he finishes." And then make yourself proud. Before thinking about making another person proud, be aware of the things that you want to improve on, but race in a way that you're happy at the end with what you did. And run your own race and don't get suckered in. From Austin Catholic, we have Cassidy Bowers. She has been very consistent since her freshman year. She has a best of 1949, and she was Macomb All-County. She won the Catholic High School League Cardinal Championships. She was regional runner-up, and then she went on to place 19th at the Division IV state finals and gave the Crusaders their first all-state honors for a cross-country athlete. Her brother Gavin was also the top runner on the boys' side, and he set his PR of 17:02 as a freshman and later finished 52nd at the state finals, which is a fantastic showing for a 9th grader. As of now, in Capac's roster, we have 1 senior, Donovan Glasgow, and 1 girl, Aubrey Bayer, and they were the only 2 participants listed from last season that look to be competing in 2026. For Cros-Lex, we have senior Connor Pepin. He is returning as the Pioneers' top boy runner, taking another trip to the state finals last fall. His track improvements bode really well for a successful cross-country season because he ran 2:02 for the 800, 4:31 in the 1600, and then he won the Blue Water Meet of Champions in the 3200 in 10:15, which was a 17-second PR. Madeline Barkley, she battled for a couple of places in the BWAC Jamborees. She was up in the front pack every time. She saw her PR drop close to a full minute from the year before, which is an amazing improvement. And then she qualified for the state finals individually, and she ran 2028 for 8th place as well at regionals. And then her teammate Haley Morrison is another one to keep an eye on for the Pioneers. She was 7th at the BWAC championships, and she earned all league honors as well. For Dryden, head coach Emma Willett is focused on those summer training sessions that kind of revolve around building that base for fall training. And they've been increasing their mileage with some workouts midway through the summer, but they want to focus on building that camaraderie, building that morale, and setting those goals for the season. They did graduate a very big senior group. So their season has been really focused on building that foundation for the next runners to come in and having our veterans drive the culture and lead the pack. So they have a smaller squad with quite a few newcomers, but they want to stay healthy, execute the process, peak at the right time, all the things that make a cross-country season successful. They did lose a couple of their lead runners, All-Stater Kara Busekovich. She was 12th at the D4 state meet in 1936. But she's optimistic about what they can do. They are returning state qualifiers Clair Wright and Ella Gussner. And then they are those good team leaders that she's looking on to, give example to the underclassmen. They've got a couple freshmen coming in too. Levi Fitchett will return. Tyler Roberts will come in and help with, leading the younger runners. Levi was a state qualifier, and then he's worked really hard this summer to get ready. And she said that Tyler is coming off one of his finest seasons to date and brings invaluable veteran experience. So they're excited to see how their returning core members lead that way for the rest of their roster. And then Willett reminds her new runners of several helpful pointers. I tell them to enjoy the moment and start conservatively. Don't get caught up in the early adrenaline. Settle into a comfortable rhythm early on and lock in with the pack around you. If you still have gas in the tank at the halfway mark, maybe start picking up the pace and see how many runners you can catch on the back half of the course. For Imlay City, it is looking like Liam Body returning as the Spartans' top boy, while Riley Schlafman had a really strong freshman season last year, and she improved over 2 minutes through the course of the fall. Last season, their coach told me that they like to travel to parks and trails and take advantage of different training areas that they don't usually get a chance to visit during the season. They like to do that for team building and for fun. So hopefully they got some time to do that as well this summer. For Kimball Landmark Academy, they are returning 4 boys participants: Caden Dustin, Dylan Maskell, Ezra Velez, and Stephen Mann. Last season, there were no runners who competed at the D4 regional, though, for their team. They didn't send anybody to race there. And then they don't have any girls listed for their roster or results. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if that changes. For Kimball New Life Christian, Kirsten Zeller is the sole female girl returning for the Knights with over 5 minutes of season improvement from one season to the next. And then for the boys, Elisha Butler is a freshman. He had a middle school PR of 12:48 in the 3200, while his teammate Landon Harrow saw 10 minutes of time drop in his first season as a cross-country runner last year as a sophomore. So he'll be returning for his second season as a junior. Macomb Lutheran North comes back in as back-to-back regional champions. They were the team champions for both the boys and the girls teams in 2024 and 2025. And then they also had the individual champions last year. So as they enter the BWAC this year, that's going to shake some things up, I think. The girls coach Tim, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to say your last name because I know I will say it wrong. He reiterated that their focus is on the importance of regionals and qualifying for the state finals. Their number one goal is to win that regional championship for that third year. And he knows that it will be a challenge as all the top teams from our region are going to be strong. And then we have several good teams. Like I mentioned earlier, you've got Holly, Mary, and Notre Dame Prep added. They are excited about joining the BWAC. So the new goal now for them is to win that league title. And they also want to showcase their runners at the Macomb County meet. They would like to repeat as the Division 2, 3, 4 small school champion. And then going back to the state meet and finishing higher than they did last year as a team is also a goal that they're shooting for. Senior Samantha Whitlam, She paced their team the last few years. She won her regional last year, and she was so close to the sub-19 mark. She ran a 19:03 at the Mid-Meet of Champions. However, for her to claim another regional title individually, she'll have to outrace Holly's Maddie Lindley, who has run 17:52 and was 12th at the state meet, and Julia Bombach, who ran 18:23 and was 32nd, just missed that all-state, that mark at the top 30. And they were added to our region this year. And then their entire top seven does return. So that's something that is a huge advantage over other teams. And they have seniors Avery Stallman, Evelyn Buckley, juniors Chloe Bowright, Lucy Gump, Ann McMahon, sophomore Ariana Macri. They were all major contributors last year, and they have just gotten better. So building on the success from their track season, hopefully they will continue their success. They do like to have pasta parties. They do like to have time to bond as a team. And their coach did mention that Columbus County Park is probably their team's favorite course because they've had a lot of success there and a lot of PRs. And for first-time racers, Coach Tim's advice, don't get too excited and start too fast. It's better to go out a little too slow than way too fast and burn out at your first race. All right. So Coach Steve Slagle, he stated that the boys and girls teams do pretty much everything together. They practice, they have meets together, they support each other, they root for each other. Both the coaches support and root for each other as well. So the boys team is looking at a bit of a different challenge because the girls return all their starting lineup, but they don't. They lost 10 seniors. And so trying to rebuild that team. Obviously, you have Josh Macri, who has won the regional the last 2 years. Elliot Alif will be the number 2 behind him. And then they're hoping that a newcomer, Jack Abdelnour, will be coming over from soccer and give them some contributions there. Now, Josh Macri is looking for a three-peat. And he's the only male cross-country athlete from 2025 that ever broke 16 minutes. And he also was all-state in the D2 state meet. He was 19th. And then he had a lot of track success in a variety of distance events. So he appears to be the BWAC favorite, clearly. Regional favorite might be a little more challenging this year. He did make the coveted 50 tickets to Brooklyn list on Michigan Speed Ratings, coming in at number 47. So if you looked at Holly's guys, they're all right about the same time as him, but he has 2 years of experience winning on that course, so that's a definite advantage. For Marine City, Andrew Beath and Riley Paulson are the 2 top returners for the boys team. They were 66th and 69th at last year's D3 regional. And for the ladies, Reagan Elliott was 35th, Emerson Rees was 49th, and both of those girls dropped multiple minutes off their times over the course of the season. Marine City Cardinal Mooney. So after a PR of 17:25 at the D4 state meet, junior Liam Newth is leading the Mooney Cardinals as the top returner, with his teammate Micah Arlo looking to close out his high school career as a senior with hopefully another trip to the state meet. He has a 17:29 PR, so those two are, neck and neck. Camille Benan and Paige Arlo are currently the only 2 female athletes listed on the Mooney roster. And Arlo's a new addition to the team. She hasn't run previously. Marysville, we have state qualifiers, Brendan Koza, Caleb McBride, and Jeremy Johnson all returning as the top 3 Viking boys. They've each run low 17s, and Koza's gone sub 17 at regionals. The girls came out swinging last year at regionals. I think they kind of stunned some people. They took the last team qualification spot for the state finals. They were 3rd. They ran 6th, 7th, 15th, 19th, and 23rd, and 5 of those top 7 return. Kenzie LeVay and Peyton Simmons have the 2 fastest times so far, with PRs of 2016 and 21:18. Memphis. As a pretty small D4 school, Memphis has historically struggled to field that full roster like some of our other small schools in our area. But Coach Preston Cornelia has one main goal in mind, and that's building the team. So his culture that he's trying to develop is to let the student athletes have a voice. And he said that approach has returned athletes who are honest and disciplined. So getting their summer miles in, getting their exercise education and strength and training, and just teaching student athletes what running is all about is what they have focused on. And they're returning several runners from last year's team. And Sophia Lawrence and Bella Ash are potentially able to qualify for states in that D4 regional. Sophia was pretty close last year. Their coach says they've been putting in a ton of work during the summer, and they're doing really well in their time trial. And then Tucker Gascoigne and James Glad are returning after not competing for a while, and hopefully they can be competitive at regionals. So a side note in regards to building a culture of running in Memphis, there is one major addition that will definitely impact the district because construction on a track and field facility has been in the works all year and is expected to be completed by the end of the summer. On to the Michigan Athletic Club for Homeschoolers, or MAC. So this is a family-oriented team for kids who are not in public school but want to run cross-country for competition. And they are a conglomerate of various kids from around the county. So Garrett Potts returns. He ran a 17:01 last fall, and Nathan Perez was at 17:38. And then two of the major star power girls were the Wessel sisters, Alana and Faith, and they have now moved to attend Romeo as public school students and compete there. So after them, the top lady returner is Lauren Robinson, who has a PR of 22:35. For New Haven, Coach Victoria Shepard is in her second year, I believe, and her primary team goals are to just build the growth and success that they had last year into this year and just allow runners to see what they're capable of. So summer training sessions, getting those runners out consistently, ramping up mileage, completing their workouts, getting them back into a routine. So Max Durham was an all-stater last year for New Haven. He graduated. So Shepard expects Douglas Grishkevich, Ryan Beauchamp, and Emma Raymer to be her top runners this season. So Emma has had pretty consistent success over her career, improved a lot. And as a senior, she was listed on the Michigan Cross Country Speed Rating Summer Previews Dark Horses, Unknowns, and Fast Risers category. She's seen her 5K drop quite a bit, and then her 800 went to a 226, and her mile went to a 545. And this is where Matt Arbelagus, who founded Michigan Cross Country Speed Ratings, gives credit to some of the kids that may never get mentioned during the season or summer, and athletes that have started their career maybe in the middle or the back and then shown great progression. So that's a really big compliment to have your name in that list. Coach Shepard also has pretty high hopes for a boys team. She says Douglas has really committed to his running in both track and in the summer, and she's pretty confident that he's going to have a strong season because of that tough work he's put in. And then Ryan prefers track, but he's been committed to trying to be more competitive in cross country, and she's excited to see what will come from that. All right, North Branch. So Jason Castle, the longtime North Branch coach, has his team's sights on the success within the Blue Water Area Conference, the BWAC. He would like to finish in the upper half. We have returning athletes Charlie Fields and Cooper Hoyt leading the Broncos boys. Fields was the top freshman in the BWAC last year. He was 30th at his regional, but that was a really tough regional. That was at Shepherd High School. He ran a 17:22, and had he run that in the Columbus Park Regional, he would have made it to the state meet. And then Hoyt was right behind him in 17:23. Same thing. That would have qualified in our regional. So Castle's looking to another senior captain, Hudson Boudreau, to lead the team. And Cooper Hoyt is also a captain. And then other athletes he said he expects to contribute are Gabe Varellen, Timothy Nose, Derek Tiads, and Ari Garcia. On the girls' side, senior captain Samantha Osborne, she's going to make an impact. She was honorable mention in the BWAC last fall. And then sophomore Jalen Bennett and junior Jolene Opperman also return to compete as well. All right, Port Huron Northern. So this school annually faces that really tough D1 conference and regional competition that includes, distance powerhouses like Fraser and Utica and Romeo. So I think that there might be a few surprises, though, because Grant Davis looks to have had a breakout season for the Huskies. He saw his first sub 17-minute race last fall as a junior at his regional. The year before that, as a sophomore, he hadn't even run sub 18. And then his freshman year, he only raced once. So that's a pretty quick progression in a year or so. And then during track, he won the 1600 at the Marysville Invitational and the Blue Water Meet of Champions. He ran big personal bests in all the distance events he did, from the 800 to the 3200. And then to earn a D1 state meet qualification based on last year's times, he's most likely looking at somewhere around like a 1633 or faster, which isn't that far off his PR. I think that's very doable with the improvement he's had. He was only one of 2 regional finishers in the top 25 that didn't qualify for the state meet when they pulled the team kids out. So that's sure to be on his radar, I'm guessing, as a senior. And then Oliver Howie has a 1723 PR and Sawyer Kemp has a 1734 PR. And so that's their senior 3-pack there. And I think that they're going to see some fast times. Now, the ladies lost a few seniors, specifically Samantha Langolf, who's now running at SC4. But they have Cassie Gibson returning. She's got a sub 21 personal best. Haley Sharp, she's low 20s. Olivia Costanzo, 2130s or below. And then Taylor Westendorf, who's under 22. So that's a good pack there that dropping time can be very impactful. Port Huron High, they recently had 6 rostered boys, 9 girls, which is a good showing for them. They usually have trouble getting 7 for a whole team. So that's exciting to see that their numbers are growing. They are also in that really tough Division I regional, like I mentioned, with Port Huron Northern. But John Goodwin received also a mention from Michigan Cross Country Speed Ratings for being that potential dark horse or fast riser. And hopefully he can close out his senior year with another personal best. That would be great to see. For the girls, we have Autumn Tastios, Layla Raska, and Layla Storr. They all had massive improvements of multiple minutes over the season. So it'll be exciting to see what they do this year. For Richmond, Mason Petrikowski had a fantastic regional performance. He earned his first sub 17 PR. He ran 1642. Then he did it again when he went to the state finals. So if you take out the graduated seniors, he's technically the top finisher from last year's BWAC finals, since he was 3rd behind Julian Walker and Owen Bindit. They both graduated. And then he also put in a solid indoor season with the 16 Ways Track Club before he ran outdoor track. So it should be pretty safe to say that he's going to be a BWAC impact. And then for the ladies, we have Haley Malier and Annalise Shagina returning as the top 2 runners, and they both had pretty big improvements over the fall last year as well. So St. Clair had a summer camp at Timberwolf Lake Camp. They had Camp Olympics, which sounds really fun. I'd like that. Water balloon toss, frisbee, scavenger hunt, all sorts of fun stuff along with their runs. And the girls coach is looking to be competitive with those regional meet schools. And obviously that is built in the summer. So lots of base building, lots of hill workouts, working on conquering that 5K distance with confidence, and then getting your speed later. She said that most of the team are returning athletes who are really looking for the scoring positions in the top 5. And they've put in the dedicated summer of training to hopefully achieve that. But not forgetting the fun. They do like their team bonding and their team dinners and their creative runs and doing all the fun things that make a team a team. Ella Thornton, Gabriella, and Josie Komorowski all qualified for the state meet last year and have run in the low 21s as well, so have experience there. For the boys, Ethan Krieger is returning as their top male runner. He dipped below 17s really early in the season and then closed out the postseason with some of his fastest times. And they had a freshman last year, David Matthews, who was kind of sprinkling through the mid to low 17s throughout the season. And so getting that experience and consistency in, I think he's going to be a really solid contender for them. Now, with that state record for the longest D2 team state qualification streak which is every year since 2000. So we're going on 26 years now. Their tradition is really on the line this season because particularly with the regional team reassignments that we are looking at now, that's going to be something that they're really going to have to work at and just strive to achieve. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. So Yale, the Bulldogs, as we know, have been an annual powerhouse in the BWAC. They won the last 9 of 10 years. Will they repeat and make the streak a solid decade? Well, that remains to be seen. They always have a huge roster. They have 2 area runners returning that were in the top 10 times for Blue Water area. So their odds are good. But there's a new horse in town, right? The Mustangs of Macomb Lutheran North, who just edged out Yale for a regional team title the last 2 years by single-digit points. They're now officially part of the BWAC, and they're joining the league in the 2026 fall, right? So regional assignments, as we've mentioned several times, those have been mixed up too. Last year, Yale crushed the second place team in the league by 40 points. It wasn't even close. So this dynamic is going to really build an interesting storyline for league competition that we have not seen in a few years. It's been total Bulldog domination. So I'm excited to see what racing will play out, and it'll be fun. So for Yale's boys team, we have Logan Rhodes, who has a PR of 16:38, Brady Van Conant, 16:39. They're both returning. Rhodes just dropped huge PRs last year towards the end of the season. He was regional runner-up to Josh Macri from Macomb Lutheran North. Van Conant won 2 out of the 3 league jamborees. He was 3rd at regionals. So you have that solid pack. And then they just got back from camp, and their coach said that, along with the fun, like tubing and cornhole and all that stuff, they left camp with new goals and new motivation and a winning mindset to carry them through the season. And I love that they're focusing on that aspect as much as the physical aspect, because as we know, cross country is a lot of mental fortitude. So for the girls team, their coach, Aaron Kovac, summer is a time for them to team bond, and they have team camp as well. And they have optional group runs that they, have their runners join throughout the preseason and the summer. So their focus, like many other teams, is to build base mileage and their stamina, welcome their new runners to the team, make them feel included, keeping it fun, ice cream runs, breakfast, swimming. And they have some team traditions at their camp as well that sound really fun. And something that is unique that they've done over the last few years, they've run the homecoming football from the opponent's school to Yale, which was started many years ago by a previous coach. They're not sure if they're going to do that again this year or not, but they do look forward to old and new traditions, which just makes team bonding and camaraderie just really fun. So last year's BWAC championships, the Yale girls edged out Armada by 2 points. It was very close. And another championship is on this team's radar because Lutheran North, as we mentioned, got added to the league. They return all of their top 7. So, their primary goals are to keep everyone healthy, keep them supported, uplift each other. After those being the most important things to focus on, then looking forward to contending for league championships and qualifying for the state finals. So Sage Cole returns as the top runner for the Bulldogs. She won the Brown City Invitational. She won the Marysville Invitational. She had a huge PR at the state finals. She ran a 19:38, which was the fastest time out of the BWAC for any female runner to run at the state meet. You've got Lillian Bender, who's always very consistent, Caitlin Schweihofer, who had a great freshman year, Ava Childers. They were all in the top 15 at regionals. They're all coming back. So with them and a few new runners to the team, Coach Kovac stated that every runner is impactful, whether it is because they're in a scoring position or leading the team in other ways, and they're looking forward to a great season. You can catch many of these teams that were mentioned in the preview in their season opener on August 20th at Cros-Lex High School. The Mike Jackson Invitational is always the first peek at how area runners are starting up their season. It's a great little preview of what's to come. And I know that all of our local runners and coaches enjoy as many fans as they can get. So if you don't have anything going on the morning of August 20th, if you want to head out and cheer them on, I know that all of them would appreciate as many fans as they can get. Thank you so much for listening to the Blue Water Running Podcast. Please share an episode to help spread the word about our mission, which is to feature and celebrate the achievements of high school and collegiate cross-country and track and field athletes from our area. You can follow Blue Water Running on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, along with meet and athlete reports and photographs on the website at bluewaterrunning.org.